Yes, so we're on step number 5 and 6. So this z-test statistic, that negative 4.12, we have to plot it on the curve, but we have to be careful where we're putting it, because on the curve there is the critical value already. The critical value is minus 1.96. And what we get for the test statistics is negative 4.12. Okay, so we have to plot the negative 4.12 with respect to the negative 1.96 to see where it will land, that test statistic, because the curve already has a critical value, which is negative 1.96. Okay, so that is that is the stage we are in now. Okay, that's the stage that we are in right now. Okay, we're going to plot the test statistic on the curve. Okay, so that's negative 4.12 and that's negative 1.96. So can anybody share with us where you think we have to put negative 4.12? In the blank area or the shaded area? Negative 1.96, right on the critical point, because that's the critical value. The critical value is on the critical point. Okay. So anybody where you think we're going to put negative 4.12? In the blank area or the shaded area? Yes?
In the shaded area.
In the shaded area, exactly. We have to put it in the shaded area because negative 4 is more negative than negative 1.96. Okay, so therefore we have to put the test statistic in the shaded area. Okay, and when we have done that, now we have to decide whether or not to reject the null, and that will be in step number 7. So if this test statistics is going in the rejection area, what do we do? What do we decide upon? Anybody? What will be our decision? Bear in mind, we always start with a pair of hypotheses in step number 1. And in our case now, the test statistic is going to land in the shaded region. Okay, we're going to land in the shaded region. There is going to come right there, because negative 4 anywhere there, it doesn't matter. Once it's on the right spot, the critical value will be right on the critical point. Okay, right there on the critical point, critical value, right on the critical point, right there. That's where it have to stay. And look at where our test statistic is. So what will be our decision in step number 7? Remember, the decision criteria says that reject the null if the test statistic is in the rejection region. Do not reject the null if the test statistic is in the unshaded region. What do we do to the null? It's always about the null when you reach step 7. Either to reject the null or do not reject the null. So what's our decision? The decision is what? The decision is to reject what? You said to reject it. To reject what? The null, exactly. Please be very clear about that, It is not difficult, but you have to be clear about it. There's no two ways about it. Okay? Very simple, but there's no two ways about it. There's no approximation, nothing like that. The decision is to reject the null. Because remember, we are trying to test a hypothesis, and you have 2 of them there. One saying the mean is more than or equal to it, one saying the mean is less than it. Okay, remember, we started with what Nurse Field said. She said the mean is less than. So we put what she said and we put the contrary to what she said. That's why it always comes in a pair. When you're testing a hypothesis, you have to put the counterpart to it. Someone will say something like the mean is less than 8. Here's what she said. Oh, and by the way, you can even label it. This is the claim. Okay, just a minute. Yeah, I have to go inside and label it for it not to move. All right, it is common practice to label the claim. It's not mandatory. So this was the claim. That's what she said. But you have to put the counterpart to it. Okay? You have to put the counterpart to it so that, you know, the test can perform and either you reject the null. It's always about the null. Reject the null or not to reject the null. So here now, we are going to reject the null because the test statistic is in the rejection region. The decision is to reject the null hypothesis. You don't have to write what I'm writing now, but I'm just going to write it because you don't have to write it because, but just for instructional purposes, because the test statistic is in the rejection region. Remember what I said, this is not difficult, but it's kind of cognitive. You are reasoning. It's like a reasoning that's going on. Testing a hypothesis, but using numbers to do that. Using sample statistics. We use the 8, we use the 6.9, the 1.87, the 50 to test what she said. Okay, using sample statistics to test the parameter. The 8 is the parameter because she talked about the population, but a sample of 50 was taken. Okay. So now step number 8 now is decision time. Conclusion time, sorry. Step number 7 is decision. Step number 8 is conclusion. So we'll just make, yes. We'll just